Hi, and welcome to the Restorative Wellness Clinicians Corner, a video series exclusively for functional health professionals, where we interview the top experts in the latest research, products, tools, and best practices for getting your clients exceptional results. Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's episode of the Restorative Wellness Clinicians Corner. I am your host, Margaret Floyd-Berry. And today we have an excerpt from an earlier episode with Kiran Krishnan, a research microbiologist who left the world of academic research to help bridge the translational gap between research and commercial innovation. You may know him as the founder and scientific innovator behind Microbiome Labs, which is a favorite resource for probiotics over here at RWS. And he is also currently the general manager of Novozymes One Health North America. He's a science advisor to 5 other companies in this market. And let me tell you, this man knows his stuff. In this Clinical Pearls episode, he shares the mechanisms and compelling research behind a powerful strain of bacteria, a psychobiotic, as he describes it, that harnesses the deep connections between the gut and the brain to calm inflammation and dramatically improve mood symptoms. It's a great excerpt. Enjoy.
When you look at depression, I think somewhere around 21 million Americans suffer from depression, and over 40 million Americans suffer from anxiety alone. And the interesting thing is when you look at IBS, for example, right, irritable bowel syndrome, we now know that IBS is not a primary gut issue. It's actually a neurological issue. It's a gut-brain issue. And around 45 million people suffer from IBS. And about 55% of people that suffer from IBS have confirmed anxiety and or depression, right? Compare that to non-IBS sufferers, it's less than 19%. So you're almost 2.5 times more likely to have anxiety and depression if you have IBS. And that's because anxiety and depression are also a gut-brain issue. So it all kind of goes together when we start looking at the most prevailing conditions that your typical person walking down the street is suffering from. They're suffering from indigestion of some sort, right? Whether it's bloating, gas, food intolerances, chronic constipation, chronic diarrhea, all of the things that fit under irritable bowel syndrome, or it's anxiety to some degree, depression to some degree, attention deficit disorders, other kinds of mood disorders, certainly sleep disorders. All of these things are so prevalent. And you see such high frequency in our society. And many of these people aren't actually going out and seeking assistance, right? Many of them are self-medicating. If it's cognitive issues like anxiety and depression, they're using recreational drugs, or they're using food, or they're using other addictive dopaminergic behaviors to try to increase dopamine to feel better about things. Or if it's a gut issue, they're taking their Metamucils, they're taking, every kind of over-the-counter thing they can find at the pharmacy. And they're on these things all the time, with bloating and distension and pressure in the belly. Often they'll have reflux. And so they're going to the pharmacy and getting, beta blockers or, PPIs, proton pump inhibitors, and working on their own, reflux disease. So these are all just such common conditions. And most people learn to live with them to a certain degree. They're not having good quality of life, but they certainly start to and try to learn to live with them until it gets so severe where they seek out help, or it changes the pathology into more serious conditions. We have a strain called Bifidobacterium longum 1714, a very important and probably one of the first psychobiotics, about 8 published papers on it. And basically we saw across the board that this strain dramatically reduces inflammation, right? And it can be inflammation that's induced by LPS. So in this case, what they would do is inject a lipopolysaccharide into the circulatory system of these animals, looking for elevated expression of all of these inflammatory markers. And yet, when you dose the animal up with the 1714 strain, you see a complete negating of this inflammatory activation. So not only does it stop inflammation from cortisol and the resulting leakiness in the gut, it can even do it from LPS that may have leaked through the system. Now, another very interesting aspect, and that's the mood component. So we have a low mood, mild depression study, anxiety study, a number of different studies showing a significant improvement in mood and perception from individuals who start taking the 1714. But here's a very fascinating study looking at brain scan activity of individuals that were taking 1714 and who were playing a game where stress was induced. So this was done by Professor Paul Encke in this wonderful little machine here that you can see. So basically individuals, healthy young individuals, are put in this machine and they're playing a cyberball game with two other players. What they don't know is that the two other players are actually bots or the computer. And basically the two other players don't throw the ball to the third player, right? And it's surprising how much social anxiety that induces in individuals. And all of that can be measured through the brain scan activity, right? So this is what the study that Paul Encke designed to bring in individuals, dose them up either on placebo or the 1714 strain. And then after 4 weeks of dosing up either on placebo or 1714 strain, they would bring them into the lab and have them undergo the social anxiety type of program. And then they would measure their brainwave activity to see what part of the brain was being turned on in these different cases. Now, what's super interesting, when you look at the placebo and you look at the theta wave band, you see no activity at all, right? And even if you look at beta band, you see almost no activity at all in the placebo group. And yet in the 1714 group, you see all of this activation in the theta wave band. Now that's super exciting because the theta wave band is the what we call kind of the flow state. That's where you have the very high capability of dealing with adverse events and stresses and thinking about things rationally and all that. That's in fact the theta wave band is the goal of meditation. Meditation, if you do it right, puts you into that theta wave state, right? So you're much more calm, you're much more lucid, you can deal with problems as they come along and so on. So it's a very, very important finding that not only do these microbes have the ability to prevent the leakiness in the gut that cortisol creates, prevent the expression of all those inflammatory cytokines, reduce cortisol response in response to stress, because the cortisol is reflective of how the intensity of the stress looks like, and also prevent the reactivation of the HPA axis, right? So it has a profound impact on how your body deals with stress. And then when you look at the brain, it's basically turning on calmness in the brain, which is super interesting, again, which is non-inflammatory, really good for the system in general.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much, Kiran. How can folks stay connected with you? Obviously, we're all, active users of the Microbiome Labs products, but in terms of you personally, your teaching, your speaking schedule, all that kind of good stuff, how do we stay connected?
Yeah, so please reach out to me on Instagram. My Instagram handle is Kiran Biome. I post a lot of my talks and interviews and presentations at conferences and all that there. And then also come to our website at microbiomelabs.com. There's a events component where it posts a lot of the areas and all we're speaking. I'm doing a lot of private events this year, which is one of the key things I want to do because I want to be out in the market working and talking directly to clinicians as much as I can, especially with some of the new exciting research that we have coming out. So we'll be posting where our private events are happening, and we've hit almost every state in the last 18 months. So we'll keep making our rounds, and I want to stay connected with the clinician database. So Instagram, microbiomelabs.com. Between those two, you'll find out a lot about what I'm doing.
Clinicians Corner podcast is sponsored by Restorative Wellness Solutions, the premier clinical training program for health practitioners who want to learn how to finally get to the root source of their clients' health concerns and help them reverse complex health challenges and chronic illness. You can't afford to keep guessing. Your clients can't afford it either. Today's clients are sicker than ever before. Their health histories are more complex than ever before. And you simply can't deliver the results they crave or build the practice you desire without the right clinical skills. Enter Restorative Wellness Solutions' foundational course, Mastering the Art and Science of Gastrointestinal Healing, our clinically proven, systematic approach to restoring balance within the body that has helped over 1,000 practitioners transform their clients' lives, grow their business, and change the way health is delivered. In less than 12 weeks, you'll develop the clinical skills and confidence you need to help your clients feel better, faster. Learn how to work with advanced lab testing to identify food sensitivities and imbalances within the gut. Craft custom targeted protocols that truly resolve your clients' gut issues, and work safely and effectively with supplements to deliver consistently life-changing results. Visit masterguthealing.com to apply today.